Hello friends! Once again I've decided to show you how I make my junk journals and junk books. To me the book has a hardcover and the journal has a soft one, so let's just agree on that. For this project I used my own prints, but of course you can choose whatever paper you like. So I begin with making sure that I have enough of the pages for all the blocks that I will make. In this case, I will be making one junk journal and one junk book, which means I will have 4 blocks. So I have 2 sets of paper, which is quite enough for both of these uh, books, journals. However, I have to make sure that the images are not repeated if you use 2 sets of paper. Also, you have to think in advance, maybe you will be using some paper on your cover, so think about that. And if you're not using prints, if you bought some paper and you have no chance to buy some more, just in case, put aside 2 pieces of paper. I'm sure at some point you will thank yourself for that. If you don't have cutout embellishments, then you also have to make sure that you have enough of paper to arrange all those tags and tag spots. As you can see now, I'm adding some other paper to my blocks. I've used tea stain paper, I used some old books, some, I don't know, music pages, whatever you find. Just make sure that they are different, they are interesting, and the colors match. I mean, if you're making a vintage looking junk journal, don't use some screaming colors, let's say. The next step is making my signatures. I will be making all of them at once because it's saving some time. So it's as simple as folding your paper and then arranging all the pages the way you like, the way you want to see them. Of course, my pages have different sizes, but I do have my general size, the main one, which is A4. This is the size of the paper that I use to print my designs. But of course, yours can be different. You could make it, I don't know, A6 or letter size. It's all up to you. Just make sure that there are no pages that are larger than your main size. In my case, I will be using a scoring board to trim off the, the extra stuff, let's say. But of course, you can use scissors or a ruler with a knife, whatever. If you're gonna use this technique, I mean, using your scoring board, just so you know, after a while, when you keep cutting and cutting this uh, A4 size, you can see the marks on my board. So I've used it a lot, and the knife in some areas is coming through the plastic, so I believe it will get broken quite soon. But it took me, I don't know, a long to use it up, so it's safe for a few journals a year, I think. At this point you can also make these folds already if you have like large pages. You can see that I'm already making some pockets of my pages. If you have some specific embellishments that you do not want to forget to use, it's better that you add them to the piles at this stage. And now it's the most boring part for someone. I'm sure that not everyone likes it, but to me it's the time when I can turn on my TV, or I don't know, find some old movie and just enjoy this quite meditative process. But for sure it's a time-consuming one. You can skip the next step, but if you do want your pages to look, I don't know, really, really charming, and so that they have this personal touch, all of them, I really recommend you to do stamping. I actually have a video about this. I will leave the link below in the description box, and also you will probably see it right now on the screen. For now, it's just a few words. I use different colors. I use different depth of color, and of course I use different stamps, but this one is my favorite. I bought it from AliExpress, I think, I'm sure. I don't know the name of it and I cannot leave you the link, but if you do some research you will find one. So when all my pages are nice and aged and stamped and stained, I start arranging the signatures. At first sight, it might look like I'm picking the pages randomly, whereas indeed I am really, really picky, and I'm trying to make all the pages match. I mean, when you open the spread, just like here, um, I believe that the colors match the envelope and the page, even though the plan was to put the envelope in the middle of the signature on the center page. And even when I assemble all of them, even when I already have this signature, sometimes I feel like, oh no, I have to change those two pages. I really feel like this one will look better here. So I do that. Sometimes I make like really, really neat signatures and trim off this extra size that popped up, but not in this case, not in Bohemian Junk Journals. So I will keep arranging my signatures. Just as I said, I'm trying to make as much of the same work as I can to save some time. Here you can see this beautiful, beautiful cat, and at first he had to go in the middle of the signature, but then I said, no, it deserves to be in the middle. And yeah, sometimes you do that. I mean, if you have some really beautiful picture which is too large to be seen on one page, then you just put it in the center. But let's get back to the work. Here you can see me measuring 6 times the length of my signature, and I will make the thread double and will sew it using a 3 holes technique. For the last time, I'm making sure that there are no pages upside down and they're all in the right places, and I'm ready to make the holes. So I'm poking through all the pages, and then I put my needle through. You can make all 3 holes in the beginning, but to me it's more comfortable to do it as I go, because the pages, they're moving and then you start fixing them, and then the holes are not as neat as you would want them to be. Basically, I'm just making 3 large stitches, and since I'm using a double thread, I will get a really nice strong signature. Just to be clear, I will remove this when I assemble the block and the cover. But for now, I just want to make sure that my pages will not fall apart. So I'm securing this signature with a few knots, and I'm ready to decorate it. I've decided to leave this part here for you to see that I also make mistakes and I fix them, and yes, I spend a lot of time to do that, but sometimes it's really worth it, even though I'm against some useless work. But in this case, I thought that this design is too interesting to leave it just like that. I mean, to fold it in half. So I thought it will be more interesting if I show this lady in the middle properly. And generally, it's always nice to make your pages look different. So instead of a regular central spread, I got this really interesting fold. Of course, I had to do all the stitching process again, but just as I said, I think the result is totally worth it. Here I'm making sure that I did not put the same images in my junk journal, because there is only one signature I can afford using all the different pages. But in my large junk book, I will use some images twice, and I just want to make sure that they're not in the same signatures. When I start decorating my junk journal, I begin with some large images and large embellishments like envelopes, folds, I don't know, additional pages, uh, and I'm trying to spread them through the whole signature. The same rule applies to the rest of the embellishments that I will be using, because if you embellish your pages one by one, starting from the beginning, quite soon you will realize that your junk journal is already chunky, but half of it is still empty. So pay attention to that. And right now you can see that I'm trying to make sure that when I fold this page, the face of that lady will look fine, and also the head of my horse will be visible and also not cut. Another important thing about these folds, I mean the large ones, is making sure that you place them in the right spot, because when you flip through the pages, you don't want this part to be loose and live its own life. You want to turn the page and make sure that then you turn this flip or fold, whatever you call it, without having to touch it. As many of you know, I like framing a lot, so I am adjusting the size of uh, this extra page, and I'm using my inks again to make the edges more visible, and I'm almost ready, and you will see now why I'm saying almost. Suddenly I realized that I did not cover these folded areas with inks, and I had to fix it. The glue wasn't dry yet, but even if it was, I would still have done the same. I would tear it apart and fix this, because I really do like to see these um, olden edges. For some reason, to me, they make your page look neat. At this point, I'm checking on my leftovers, some pieces of paper that I have around me, and just adding some extra writing space here and there. I'm sure that leftovers are the best friends in junk journaling. The most interesting elements, embellishments, are made of leftovers of some stuff you just dreamed of something more important and beautiful. With proper embellishments like cards, tags, envelopes, some images, it's all clear. You just make them visible. But with scraps, you actually have to be creative. Sometimes they give you some troubles, like not fitting with size or shape or color or texture. Like here, I had to trim one side because I couldn't close this fold properly. But then you get this really nice and unusual thing. When I'm done with the largest embellishments, I'm starting playing with the smaller ones, and again I'm spreading them through my whole junk journal. Usually it would be these big deep tuck spots and pockets. I keep searching for the perfect place for them, and even sometimes I almost done, almost glue it, and yet I go to another page to place it. When you print your paper, or when you have like a lot of designed paper that you bought, it's really important not to forget about some other stuff that you have to use. I mean, different kinds of paper and the actual junk, if you wish. You have to experiment with collages and some unusual ways to place them. I mean, here you can see that I'm making this flip that has this layered mini signatures, and of course I am making sure that these materials match the page that is next to it. For example, here you can see that I mixed new and old pieces of paper. I had to add that vintage look to this flip, otherwise the left side would be too, I don't know, new compared to the right one. On this spread you will see a lot of embellishments. Right now I will be making this envelope, and it will also be decorated with these writing spaces. As you can see, I played a lot with my sewing machine. However, I find it really important to leave some actual writing space. I mean, you have to give it a break on some pages. You just leave them blank. They're already decorated with some stamping and aging. Well, if they are. If they're not, it's also okay. There is no need to embellish every page, because the person that will be filling it, uh, they will decorate it with their own memorable things like photos, paper scraps, I don't know, laces, buttons, you name it. So, yeah, don't embellish each and every page. And meanwhile, I'm showing you that another embellishment of mine that I use a lot in my junk journals. These are these fabric and lace collages that I embellish with these sequences, and sometimes there are buttons, beads, charms. I do not recommend to place these embellishments in the middle of the page. I mean, if it's just like this, like a piece of lace and maybe the sequences that are upside down, yeah, you can place them wherever you want. But if you add something like buttons or beads, make sure that it's still possible to write when you turn this page. The next interesting thing that you can add to your junk journals, to your pages, is these fabric tabs. You can add some laces, you can decorate them with whatever you feel like, with some charms and buttons, of course. Of course, do not forget to spread them fairly through your journal, through your pages. And if you want to add some ruffles, then this is the right time to do that, because they also have to match. You cannot ignore the colors, the textures, and I'm sure there will be some charms, so you have to think about that too. I mean, when you hang them, uh, make sure that they're not too low and there is a proper distance between them, these kind of things. Generally, I use quite a lot of different fabrics, laces, and ribbons in my journals when I decorate the pages. Apart from those tabs and ruffles, you can see there are a lot of fabric pockets and different kinds of collages. Some of them are large, like this one, the other ones are smaller and yet quite interesting, different, unusual, and you will want to look at them again and again. You would like to touch all those fabrics, and I don't know, you can move some parts. It's like a toy, I'd say. And if you don't have too many of materials, just know that these large stitches, they're really attractive too. It's so nice to touch them. So I'm all done with my pages. The block is all embellished and I'm ready to make a cover. For this kind of cover, I always recycle something. Just make sure that this material is flexible enough and it's not too thick, because it's the most likely that you will have to do some hand stitching, some embroidery, beading, some other embellishments, and it will all be done by your hands. When you choose these basic fabrics, make sure that not only colors match but also the thickness and the texture. If you prefer to use just one piece of fabric, it's totally fine. If you like collages, even better, I'd say. However, you have to think in advance about the layers that you will add to your cover. I mean, check on your laces, check on the charms and buttons that you have, so that they all will match with these fabrics. I used my sewing machine to fix this fabric, but of course you don't have to do this if you're afraid that the cardstock will damage it. It's enough to use just some fair amount of glue for that. You can see that I do not align my fabric with the cardstock. This will allow you to hide the cardstock, and also if you want you will add some shabby look to your edges. Before I start decorating my cover, I decide whether I have a closure. Here I was thinking that I will have one, but then I changed my mind. That happens too. Sometimes I place all the patches and fix them with white glue, and then I use, let's say, sewing machine to fix them properly. But you can also fix immediately every patch that you add. It's just I'm quite confident that I will arrange the other pieces properly, and also I'm not afraid to remove something and fix it, like here with that mini book that you can see. At first I used laces as a closure, and then I thought that I want to use this metallic thing. So to me it doesn't really matter, but if you're afraid to spoil something, or if you're afraid that you will trim some fabric and then you don't have enough of it to fix this area, then it's better that you think in advance, you maybe even make some little sketch, and only then you start placing your embellishments. Hand stitching is one of the most important things, I think. It's like painting or a handwriting. If you want to add a personal touch, you will definitely show your hand stitches. If you think that you're done, then you have to take a break. At least 15 minutes. It's even better if you leave your journal for a night, because when you wake up in the morning, there is a big chance that you will see that you have to fix something, add something, change something, without any risk to ruin your cover or getting into trouble with some extra work to do. Before you decorate the inner side of the cover, it's better that you add all the pockets and other embellishments that you want. I mean, if you have to use a sewing machine, this is the right time, because you won't be able to do that. And if you're using not fabric but paper for the inside, then you have to remember that when you glue it, you have to dry it half closed. Otherwise, you might get these large, hard, and really not nice wrinkles in the center where you fold it. But generally, you can just put the block inside and close it. If you have a closure, then you use it. If you don't have one, then you just put some book on top of it. When it's dry, you can add some more stitches. I did that along all the edges because again, I do like framing, and I find that this way the work looks more complete. To attach the cover, I will use the same technique as I did when I was making my signature. It's just this time I will be using this embroidery thread that is really thick, so I will use just 3 lengths of my book, not 6, and as for the rest it will be just the same. Before I fix the ends of this final binding thread, I will remove the old ones, the ones that I used to make the main block, the signature, and then I will make a few knots and will fix them with white glue. After that, I will leave it open and let it dry and sort of let it rest, and will take a rest myself. As you can guess, the most charming part is adding charms. I don't have to think about them too much because I already have my tabs that will tell me where to hang them. And the last part is to go through the pages and see where you can quickly add something interesting. Of course, it's better to add at least something on your cover so that it won't be too blank and too boring, even though here I have quite rich fabric. Just, to give an idea that you can also use this space. I'm sure before you call it finish, or even after you call it finish, you still will give it another look, not even one. You will make some adjustments, you will add something, and you will actually play with it as if it was your baby. And these will be the best moments, I must say. And I really do hope you will enjoy them. Even though I will have to take care of all this mess that I have every time I finish some project. I begin with an empty room, spotless, perfectly clean, and then I get this. But that's fine. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. I wish you all to stay safe, healthy, and creative.